Hi there. I'm Don Samueli, President, U.S. Operations of Editage, an English language services provider, and I'm here today at Walters Kluwer in Philadelphia talking with Dr. Ann Woods, who's Chief Nurse, and Sean Kennedy, the Editor-in-Chief of American Journal of Nursing. Hi there.
Hi.
The one thing that you had mentioned, Sean, about corrupt practices around manuscript preparation, and in a prior video we were talking about ethics of authorship. There are manuscript marketplaces out there where I can literally go today and buy a manuscript or buy my way onto the author byline of a manuscript. And some of these manuscripts can be either customized or have already gone through peer review, of which the author has turned around and trying to sell the paper. And the people who are listening to this video and watching the video need to know that this is ethically and immorally wrong, that that research and intellectual property to be bought and sold this way, but it is absolutely no way to get your name onto a paper or to arrange for a paper for submission. What are the downsides to an author's career if in fact they're caught in any of these fraudulent activities?
It's over if they're caught. Plagiarism is something that we report when most journals set a limit. If it's 30% plagiarized, we report it. If it's over 30%, we report it to the employer, to the university. The data problem is one that goes back. We have it less because we're looking at clinical outcomes, not bench research. But we've had issues where people have lifted. We just had one. It was in the. They tried to republish the study with us, and it had published. We had published the original report, and then this author was coming back with and publishing the same paper, just same words, just put different numbers in, but it was to the original publisher. So most publishers now are savvy enough that we know if you get something in and it looks too good, it probably is too good, and it's probably already been edited and published. So, and then there's of course the plagiarism checking. But for authors to go down this path, they're going to get caught because it's just the world has gotten really small and highly technical. So they will get caught. There's been instances where in some of the very small specialty journals where they do ask authors to suggest some peer reviewers because there are very few in the area. And there's a famous case of one author who actually peer reviewed his own paper and gave a glowing review, and he set up a fake email and was found out. There are authors who falsified data. There's of course the famous physician who falsified data on vaccines, which is still creating chaos and havoc and harming people. So people have become highly suspicious of work, and in the sense of author beware, it's also become editors beware as well, because many times I feel like I have to play detective because something doesn't seem right. And most editors have been involved and been around the block a few times and seen different practices. And with the tools we have now to discover some of these things, you can get a feel for something. And for an author to seek advancement through this fraudulent mechanism, or by having somebody ghostwrite it for themselves, or paying somebody else to prepare the manuscript and submit it under their name. First of all, I would say they may not get caught the first time, but eventually they will. So I just think for authors to just, what can you say?
What is interesting about discoverability in literature is fraud is highly discoverable now. You don't just submitting a paper into a print journal, those days are gone.
Yes.
Now you have literally millions of people reading the paper, including other authors of which you may have stolen from, recognizing their own work. And so the discoverability of the research leads to the fact that any fraudulent activity, there's a high likelihood today of it being discovered very rapidly, and not only being retracted, but basically the author would no longer be able to submit to that journal or a family of journals, or the universities may take action.
People lose licenses, they lose positions. And there are sites now that are specifically looking at this. Retraction Watch,
yes.
Is one site where they specifically look and kind of retraction police and really look at the standards and look at articles and compare what's happening here and is this true. And so there are a lot of watchdog groups that come up. I think publishing is entering into this new era of because of the dissemination, because the public has gotten so informed and has access to all this material, the publishers are really, I think, cognizant of the harm that can happen if what they produce is out there and is erroneous and people start using it. So the publishers are on guard, editors are on guard, and then there's the Association of Healthcare Journalists, Retraction.Watch, Jeffrey Beal, who has his predatory publishing site. So there's all these sites. So it's, I think, going forward, anyone who's been trying to commit fraud, either as an author or as a publisher who's trying to just enrich their pockets, I think they're going to find it more and more difficult going forward. And I think I hope we see an end to it in the next few years, because I think people are just getting really educated about it.
I'm not necessarily as optimistic. I worry a lot about the integrity of the scholarly literature and where we're going. I would argue that we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg of the fraud and corruption coming forward as technologies get better. But
well, yeah, because I see your point. I'm thinking of technology in terms of discovering this, but technology also has the other side of it, which makes it easier to do other types of
so
products.
Only time will tell. But the other thing that the author needs to be aware of is that the publishers and the journalists actually talk to each other.
Yes,
we do.
This is no longer an isolated event. And if you end up having a red flag in one location, that is across
People
the
will
whole
know.
publishing
That's right.
industry. And so if you are flagged for potential fraud or fraudulent activity in one place or another, it's going to wield its angry head in another place. And there are organizations like COPE, the Committee on Publication Ethics, who take this very seriously and who look into these aspects of publication ethics and take action. And the publishers are working alongside with COPE to support these initiatives. So with that, again, thank you. It's been a great discussion and dialogue, and I will say that it's been a wonderful experience being here at Wolters Kluwer and talking with you both. Again, I'm Don Samulak, President, U.S. Operations of Editage, here at Wolters Kluwer, talking with Ann Woods, Chief Nurse, and Sean Kennedy, Editor-in-Chief, American Journal of Nursing. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Don.
you.